Hello, bonjour, hola, shalom, aloha. It's time for a tester watercolor sheet. I've set myself up for painting. I have my paint palette, my paper towel, my bucket of water I'm sharing with my friends, a thin brush, a thick brush, a piece of paper, and I'm ready to go. Step 1, grab a pencil, write your name and your class code on the bottom right side of your paper. Then flip your paper over. Now, after you flip your paper over, you are going to divide your paper into 9 sections. Basically, it's a 3 and a 3 thing because we're going to do 9 different tests or types of watercolor painting. Oh, I messed up. Okay, so instead of getting a new sheet of paper, I'm just going to flip this back over and use the other side and go slower. Okay, so I'm going to go horizontally. You're just going to put 2 lines, and then you're going to put 2 lines vertically. This time I'm going to kind of like put some dots so I don't have the wonky super skinny. Okay, good enough. Perfect. Okay, here we go. I count them. Yep, there's 9. Here we are. Yay, double thumbs up. Now, I wrote notes in mine because there's 9 different types I want you to try. Basically, each one has the description of the paper and the brush. So the first one is called dry. You use a very dry brush and you paint on dry paper. So I dried off my brush on the paper towel, and now I am doing dry brush. It's really like brush strokey looking. I'm rinsing it off. I dry it off again on the paper towel, and I get a new color. Okay, so I'm trying out this weird yellow color and see what happens. Oh, yep, it's okay. You can make little tiny details. You can make little tiny dots, stuff like that with a dry brush. Okay, so there we have it. Next, I'm going to do dry wet. That means the paper is going to be wet, so I put down some water, and the paintbrush is going to be dry. So I'm going to dry off the paintbrush on the paper towel again, and then I go straight to the paint palette, and I'm picking out some red, and I take it and I paint, and it makes a really smooth paintbrush stroke. Next, we are doing wet on wet. That means you paint the water on the paper, and then you leave the water in your paintbrush and you pick a color. Okay. Then when you paint on the paper, it spreads out and it blends together really nicely. So if you use colors right next to each other from the color wheel, it'll just kind of like ooze into each other, and they call it kind of ombre or gradation. So I picked 3 different greens and yellows. Now I'm going to tap on some more yellow here and then kind of ooze it together. Okay? Awesome. You guys are doing great. Keep up the amazing art painting. Our next style is called wet on dry. So you get your paintbrush really wet, and then you go into the paint palette and you paint. And it's kind of smooth and lovely like dry on wet, but it's the reverse. And you can make really long brush strokes with that. Notice I'm always using a gentle brush stroke. I'm rinsing in between colors so I keep the palette nice and crisp and clean. And the next one is called stripes. I'm using the flat part of the paintbrush, and I'm going very slowly all the way across, and I can make a really nice, thick, straight line. Now I'm using the side of the brush, which evidently I didn't do a very good job videoing this because you can't even see what I'm doing, but I'm holding the brush sideways instead of the flat ways. So here it is flat, see that? So the other time I twisted the brush so it was just the skinny side. Okay, awesome. Now we are on crisp and blurred. Paint 2 circles on your paper. While I'm painting the 2 circles, I want to say something. Is your tester sheet going to look like mine? No. Can you use one color for the whole thing? Sure, it's up to you. So I painted 2 circles. Now I want one to be crisp, so I leave it like it is. And for the one I want blurred, I take and I put water on my brush and I go around it, and I'm just touching the outside edge, and then it kind of like makes it blur out. Okay, for this one, you're going to do a wash. Paint the paper with water, like you're washing it, and then pick a color you want, and you're going to spread it down, down, down. And usually you can do this with one dip in the palette. So I did it all the way down, and this is like a nice wash for skies, and then you can add other colors in it and blur them up and stuff, like little blobs and circles, and it looks super cool. I think I forgot to put the blobs in there. Yeah, if you want to add blobs in your wash, do it. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Now oh, maybe you could try it in the next one. This one is your choice. You do whatever you think is cool with watercolor paints in this rectangle. That's why I'm putting a question mark, like I wonder what you're going to do. I used a really thick brush and I used a really thin brush. Something to remember when you're making art is the tools are very important. If you're doing a teeny tiny area and you're using a brush that's too big, don't use it. Go get a tiny brush. Lastly, we got the splatter. This is where you take one brush, you take another brush, you fill it up with color, and you tap it on the other brush. Be careful when you do this. You don't want to get it on a neighbor's art. I didn't have enough water in there, so I got more water, and so now I'm doing it, and I'm splattering on my splatter spot. Yay! Okay, artists, after you're done splattering, you are going to be cleaning up your spot. I put my paintbrushes back in there, and I'm ready to put my art on the drying rack. Woohoo! Next, I dump my water down the left side of the sink. I rinse my brushes in the rinse bucket. I put them over in the drying thing up with the bristles facing up, put my paint palette there, and I'm all set. And lastly, I wipe off my spot. Thanks, artists. Thanks for being amazing. You're the best.